Hello learners, this is Habiba with UGC NET Paper 2 Education Unit 3 Learner and Learning Process with the subtopic Personality Theories. Introduction. The study of personality has become an inescapable necessity for all psychologists. The truth of the matter is that man's personality is formed not by one factor but by numerous factors. Theories of personality have been propounded on the basis of conceptions of personality formed psychologists according to their own line of thought. Let's understand this through some definitions here. Personality is a dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his characteristic behavior and thought, given by Alport in the year 1961. The next definition is the characteristics or blend of characteristics that make a person unique. For example, a person might have different characteristics which makes him stand out in the society. That means unique personality. For example, Mother Teresa, Abdul Kalam, n number of persons are there who has unique personality. That means different characteristics that person carries makes him unique in the society or in the world. That personality is characteristics that define a person's behavior, then cognition and emotion. That means how the person behaves. Cognition means what is the level of the thinking of that person, and the emotion means the emotions, different emotions which carries. All these characteristics blend is called personality. Now there are different theories of personality like psychoanalytic theory, psychodynamic theory, birth order theory, humanistic theory, trait theory, social cognitive theory. Today we are going to understand about the first one, psychoanalytic theory given by Sigmund Freud. Now who was Sigmund Freud? Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist and the pioneer for psychoanalysis, a system of psychological theory and therapy investigating the interaction of conscious and unconscious elements in the mind. He authored many books on the topic and was one of the most controversial yet influential thinkers of his time. Now Freud's theory, let's understand, personality involves several factors, that is instinctual drives, that means food, sex, aggression, then unconscious processes, then early childhood influences, that is psychosexual stages, especially the parents. Now personality development depends on the interplay of instinct and environment during the first 5 years of life. This is given by Sigmund Freud. Parental behavior is crucial to normal and abnormal development. Personality and mental health problems in adult can usually be traced back to the first 5 years. Now psychosexual development. People, including children, are basically hedonistic. They are driven to seek pleasure by gratifying the id's desires. That is given by Sigmund Freud in the year 1920. And also sources of pleasure are determined by the location of the libido. Libido means life force. That is given by Sigmund Freud again. As a child moves through different developmental stages, the location of the libido, that means life force, and hence sources of pleasure changes, given by Freud in the year 1905. Now Freud's psychosexual stages, let's understand the different stages. First one is oral, that is from 0 to 18 months. That focus will be pleasure centers on the mouth, sucking, biting, chewing. If you see the small kids, they chew whatever the things are given to them. They chew the things, they suck the fingers, or they bite, or they try to do all such kind of things at this age. That is the libido, life focus is on this here. The next one is anal. That is 18 to 36 months. The pleasure focuses on the bowel and bladder elimination, coping with demands for control. If you see the child, when they release the urine or something, they try to play with that urine itself. That means in this stage that happens. Then comes the phallic. that is 3 to 6 years. Pleasure zone is the genitals coping with sensuous sexual feelings, that is Oedipus complex. Then comes the latency, 6 to puberty age, that is the maturity age. That is focus will be dormant sexual feelings, identification process, gender identity, all this occurs in this stage. Then comes genital stage, that is puberty on, that is maturation of sexual interests. These are the different psychosexual stages given by Sigmund Freud. Environmental and parental experiences during childhood influences an individual's personality during adulthood. For example, during the first 2 years of life, the infant who is neglected, insufficiently fed, or who is overprotected, overfed, might become an orally fixated person. That is given by Freud in the year 1905. Let's see the different stages, what happens when negative things or the positive things occurs here. In the oral, forceful feeding, what happens? Underfeeding, overfed, what happens? Underfed, what happens here? Oral passive, trusting and dependency issues will come here. If overfed, then oral aggression, aggressive and dominating they will become. And anal stage, toilet training here. If you are too harsh in toilet training or too lax, what will happen? If too harsh, anal retentive, what happens? Tidiness, obsessiveness, mean, stubborn they will become if you become harsh with the toilet training. If too relaxed, then what happens? Anal explosive, that is untidiness, generosity, these all things occur here. Then phallic stage, what happens? Abnormal family setup leading to unusual relationship with mother and father happens here. Vanity, self-obsession, sexual anxiety, inadequacy, inferiority, envy, all these things happens in this stage. Then genital stage, what happens? Setting down in a loving one-to-one relationship with another happens here. That is well adjusted, mature, able to love and be loved. Sexual instinct is directed to heterosexual pleasures. So these are all the different stages in the Sigmund Freud's theory here. Now again one more theory is given, that is tripartite theory of personality. Freud in the year 1923 saw the personality structured into 3 parts, that is tripartite, that is id, ego and superego, also known as the psyche, all developing at different stages in our life. These are systems, not parts of the brain or in any way physical. These are the systems, working systems in the brain. It's not part of brain. This is working system in the brain. Like the id is the primitive and instinctive component of personality. It consists of all the inherited, that is biological components of personality, including the sex, life, instinct, eros, which contains the libido and aggressive instinct, thanatos. Then it operates on the pleasure principle, which is the idea that every wishful impulse should be satisfied immediately regardless of the consequence. That means in this what happens is whatever things we want the things to be done immediately. So this is id. Then the structure of personality is given by Sigmund Freud as an iceberg here. Id operates according to the pleasure principles, primitive and unconscious part of personality. Ego operates according to the reality principles. What is right, what is wrong, that reality. That is mediates between id and superego. Then superego, moral ideals and consciences will happen here. That means the consequences they will think about, morality, whether it is right or wrong they will think about. Here id is a innate desire, pleasure seeking, aggression, sexual impulse. These are the characteristics of id. And then superego, they are moral, ethical values and parental. Then ego, mature adaptive behavior. Ego stands in between id and superego. So in this what happened? Psychotic psyche, that is food, drink, now the ego develops in order to mediate between the unrealistic id and the external real world like a referee. It is the decision making component of personality. The ego operates according to the reality principle, working our realistic ways of satisfying the id's demands, often compromising or postponing satisfaction to avoid negative consequences of society. The ego considers social realities and norms, etiquette, and rules in deciding how to behave. Then comes the healthy psyche. The superego incorporates the values and morals of society which are learned from one's parents and others. It is similar to a conscience which can punish the ego through causing feelings of guilt. Then comes neurotic psyche. It is typically defined as a tendency towards anxiety, depression, self-doubt, and other negative feelings. So let's conclude this topic here. Sigmund Freud's history. What is his history? He was born in the month of May 6th, 1856, and then his death September 23rd, 1939. Father were psychoanalytics, University of Vienna he was in, and was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who co-founded the Psychoanalytic School of Psychology, and is known for his theories of unconscious mind and a redefinition of sexual desire as mobile and directed towards a wide variety of objects. Freud's personality structure, let's revise once again. Id, ego, and superego. What is id here? Energy striving to satisfy basic drives. That is, I want this thing right now. That is the characteristic of ego. Id. Then ego seeks to gratify the id in realistic ways. He's in between id and superego. Ego will be there. It seeks to gratify, whether it is correct or wrong, seeks to satisfy that. Then superego, the voice of conscience inside the person, the voice of conscience that emphasizes how we ought to behave, whether this is correct to behave or not. Moral principle comes here in superego. Then when we talk about personality, personality has three parts. We said tripartite, that is primitive features that are driven by an unconscious need for pleasure principle, that is present at birth and displays itself as selfish and demands gratification. Then ego develops around the age of 2 and focuses on the reality principle. It reduces the conflict between id and superego by implementing defense mechanism. Then comes the superego, develops around the age of 5 years. It's our internal moral, that is morality principle, that we learn from our same sex parent that punishes our ego for any wrong through guilt. Then Freud's psychoanalytic theory, we understood about oral stage, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. Oral stage, first year sucking and eating, the mouth is the pleasure zone, requires the development of independence. Then fixation results in oral passive dependence on others and eating, drinking, and smoking. Then oral aggressive, that is bitters, gum, chews, and verbally aggressive, argumentative, and sarcastic. So these are the psychosexual stages given by Sigmund Freud. Now let's see some previous year questions here. First question, according to psychoanalysis theory of personality, neurotic disorders are caused by option A, repression of desire, option B, inactivity of libido, option C, role of unconscious mind, option D, all of this. The answer is option A, that is repression of desire. The second question is, according to Freud, superego is properly developed during Option A, latency period. Option B, anal period. Option C, phallic period. Option D, none of this. Answer is option A, latency period. The third question is, psychoanalytic approach of counseling was first introduced by option A, Adler, option B, Jung, option C, Freud, option D, none of this. Answer is option C, that is Sigmund Freud. So we come to the end of this session. Thanks for your attention and time. As motivation, please do like, share, subscribe and comment below. Happy learning.